Hello, welcome to the next episode of my podcast Pivot with PJ. This is your host, and I have Subhashree Parthasarathy with me today. How do you see, as art forms, how do you see them different?
I think there was a lot of opening in the mind, in I don't know, the subtle body or something. So at one point, what happened was Kalarippayattu started inspiring my music practice, and music practice in turn was feeding my Kalari training as well.
So, is this a Shubha thing, or is it something that every practitioner is able to get?
Initially, I had confusions of, oh, am I a musician or am I a Kalarippayattu artist or what am I claiming to be? As a person, you'll have a lot of things to express. And now, as an artist, I have two tools.
I'm PJ and I'm here to navigate the bends of the roads with you. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get on this ride together on Pivot with PJ.
Hello, welcome to the next episode of my podcast Pivot with PJ. This is your host, and I have Subhashree Parthasarathy with me today. Brief introduction about her. Shubha was born and raised in Mumbai. She moved to Chennai to kind of pursue her Carnatic music vocal, right? Seriously. And she went to college, did her engineering, and started her career as a software engineer, and subsequently was introduced to Kalarippayattu, the an ancient Kerala art form that was originated in Kerala, I think, through a theater program. And we would love to talk more about it. It's very interesting how you got introduced to that, and from there on, you've decided to pursue Kalarippayattu and art full time, right? So here you are, and you've done a lot of performances, productions also. So if you can share a little bit more about that journey briefly, and then we can, have a conversation subsequent to that.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
I think Kalarippayattu pursued me. I would say that because I had no plans of doing any martial art or anything such intense. Uh, in 2016, when I quit my IT job, I wanted to learn theater, the craft of theater. So I was looking at various colleges that were offering courses, and finally I ended up attending Adishakti's 10-day soap workshop, which is a source of performance energy workshop, as they call it. So in that, the first module, they have a lot of modules, and so the first module was Kadalipet. So we were taken to a pit, underground pit, which was in itself very fascinating. The kind of space where the martial art is practiced, and the structures inside the space, and the nature around, and the red soil, everything was very striking. But I didn't know that I would pursue this. At the end of 10 days, I wanted more. So I went back. I remember it was flood time, and I had to somehow get all my luggage and convince my family and go home and come back in 2 days.
Wow.
And I came to Kalarigram, which is the Kalari school that Adishakti used to send the participants to for Kalarivet. So I ended up staying there for 2 years.
Wow.
Uh, and then 2 years, and then I couldn't stay there anymore. I had to come back to my house. So I came back, but then I used to travel every weekend there. I started taking classes in Chennai. So in that way, I had a commitment in Chennai, but also I want to go back and train. So yeah, for 4 solid years, it was full training, and I think the primary interest was when I started learning Kalari was performing arts theatre. But it so happened that I became too immersed in the martial art itself. Of course, now I've started to not step out, but see through the lens of Kalaripayat, the performing arts that a lot of Kerala artists have. Their body language, the kind of breath work they do, the kind of rituals associated to this body language. Everything is so connecting, and it all came very naturally. Interest of just from performing arts to narrowing down to performing arts, which are closely related to Kalarippayattu. So yeah, that's how I started, and somehow it's going.
Yeah, and as an art form, although performing arts and martial arts kind of have in spirit they're different. You have been trained and have been performing Carnatic vocal even prior to
Yes.
Kalarippayattu. How do you see as art forms? How do you see them different? You mentioned a lot of performing arts in Kerala also kind of take inspiration from
Yes.
Kalarippayattu.
Yes.
Performing arts, martial arts, in a way, you could say performing arts is a way to express yourself. Fine arts also. How do you see martial arts as?
That's a very interesting question, because that's how my life has sort of included both music and coloring. The thing is, when I underwent 2 years of rigorous training, I became, I think there was a lot of opening in the mind, in, I don't know, the subtle body or something that opened a lot. And I started connecting with my music practice much more than I used to before coloring. So I think this ability to connect to a performance that I'm giving came about because of Kalarippayattu. So at one point, what happened was Kalarippayattu started inspiring my music practice, and music practice in turn was feeding my Kalari training as well. So I think as a person, no, I'm saying a person, not an artist. As a person, you'll have a lot of things to express. And now, as an artist, I have two tools that, it's not just my voice speaking or not just my body expressing, but I become a whole medium. I think I am at an advantage at that, in that sense that
Fascinating.
my current research is called Vaikhari. It's so, according to the tantric scriptures, we have four stages of sound or speech. One is para, pashyanti, madhyama, and vaikhari. Para is the that pregnant silence that is there inside you. Para, pashyanti is the intention that you want to say something or you want to express something. Madhyama is you frame something, and then vaikhari is the actual act of.
Madhyama, you frame inside
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. For example, my thoughts, I'm framing those thoughts and I'm finally saying those thoughts. But I think in my case, this is not just for the voice, it's become for the whole tool that I am. So when I'm performing or when I'm devising a performance or when I'm choreographing or when I am in a production, I think the whole of this tool is a part of that. So this whole thing is contributing to the production or to the practice. So initially I had confusions of, oh, am I a musician or am I a clarified artist or what am I claiming to be? But then slowly, when I think when I see clarified more as a spiritual practice for me, it gives me access to accept myself as both. Actually, not both, many angles
Right.
to it. I even like drumming.
Uh,
So, the rhythm, the breath, everything. So I think for me, the practice has made me open to the full potential or the possibility that I can bring to the space.
wow. Incredible. So two things that comes up for me when you just said it, right? So it helps you form deeper connection with your being.
Yes.
Is it just with your being, or has it also helped you make and form deeper connections with the outside world, with the
In,
environment, with other people?
Interestingly, actually, yes, initially I think my connection was immediately towards nature, the surroundings, not the human level. I think the more sensorial level, which growing up as a city girl, I missed out on a lot. And this was a great time catching up with all the lost non connections. And over the years, I think I am able to subtly connect with people whom even I don't, vibe along with. Because I think the practice has made me more compassionate towards any person that I meet. Earlier on, I used to be like super judgmental about a lot of things, like somebody who's not a Brahmin, or somebody who's not a heteronormative sexuality, or somebody who's an IT person. I would judge that person. I was that person. So now I think I'm able to connect with any of any people, any person that comes or interacts with me. I'm able to connect with them because in class, what we do, as I was telling you, in class, what we do is we repeat a lot of stances and a lot of kicks and postures we do daily. And even though we are used to all those postures, I think over the years the body changes, your teacher changes, or if you even have the fortune of having the same teacher for a long time, he or she picks up certain things that change the practice. So every small thing that journeys with you through the practice, I think makes you more compassionate. So that also reflects in your daily life, and you are naturally able to sense or connect with the other.
So is this a Shubha thing, or is it something that every practitioner is able to get? Because see, one of the things I'm sensing is the ability to
Mm,
feel and see those nuances.
mm, mm.
So is it something that comes naturally to you, and that's why you're able to uh, develop that compassion? Or
I think so. I've had this discussion with a couple of fellow practitioners, and we've had similar kind of what to say encounters. Of course, at different levels. So it's hard for me to say if it is because I am like this, I'm able to, feel the nuances, or. But I'm one thing is sure that when you are intimate with your teacher and when you're intimate with a space, I think you become more trusting. Okay, because growing up in a city, trust was like something that was like a, you can say, a taboo. Because
it
in
was
Mumbai
scarce.
it was, yeah, it was also scary to trust people in Mumbai.
Mm.
For example, we have a small space for ourselves, and you have to fight for that space, and you have to sometimes trick people. You have to earn your space. That is a different way of living. And when suddenly you are in a practice where it's, the moment you start giving to the practice, it's giving you doubly and triply. I think it's very contrasting. So I think because the practice also gives you a lot, I think as a community we all sort of respond to each other, and even in general. So I think it's a practitioner's thing.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So you can safely say that, if anybody practices and gets intimate to the art form and the space and gives
Yes.
themselves in fully to the moment, they can feel it.
Oh yes.
And therefore the compassion
Yes.
emerges out of them
Yes.
naturally, organically,
Yes.
is what you think.
I think all the traditional forms, even like farming, you are a community when you do farming. You're a community when you build a space, performing art space, and there are a lot of times when you have to trust each other. There are a lot of times when you make mistakes, and there are a lot of times when you are amazing in what you do. So I think this feeding off each other's energies is very important in this time and age where we are so, you know, in um, in a so-called focused path where you want to achieve things academically and professionally and socially, also a house, a car, whatever. But you miss out on so many things that you can get or give from each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for someone who has been training in Carnatic music, which is, if I may say, more traditional, in a more in a, I don't know if conservative is the right word, but let me just say it that way. And it's also somewhat of an exclusive
Yes,
art form. I mean, it would have been a different way of looking at art.
totally.
And was it? Can I say it was? It would have been liberating also
Oh,
to you
yes.
in some
Yes.
ways.
I was the outsider
Right.
in a practice like Kalarippayattu. I'm a woman and Kalarippayattu, lot of boys. But now it's changing. Everything is like so many women I can see practicing, coming more than men who come practice daily. So for me, the so-called upper class woman who shouldn't, do martial arts. Even for me, for my parents, even now they are a little bit hesitant if I identify myself as a Kalari practitioner or a Kalari teacher. They are not very comfortable in, but they also took some time to accept me. So coming from that space to this space was, I think I was yearning to come to this space, and so both the spaces are, sort of empowering each other in me.
Amazing. How contrasting was it for you? Just like, in a way, the whole world of Carnatic music is exclusive. In some form, some way, it's also um, protective of
Yes,
the tribe and all of
yes,
that. Did you feel that in Kalari, the tribe
yes,
of Kalari also?
yes,
Were you
yes.
accepted right away, or did it take effort to build the trust and
So yes, of course, there were a lot of students who used to come, and they would say that, oh, I'm giving my time and my also money to come and learn here. But Lakshmanji would really see through you. He would see if you're really truly, able to dedicate yourself, your time, your effort, your energy, everything. I think any art form, apart from the fact that you belong to a certain caste or something, if the teacher or the school is open to seeing you for what you really are, I think I've faced that in both, even in my Carnatic circle, even in Kalaripai. Both of them have their own, boundaries. But once the teacher feels that you're ready and you're true to the practice, then I think at that point those boundaries are just lifted.
in both?
In both, actually. I would say, I think Carnatic, being a more classical form, is a little bit more hesitant, and usually also look down upon people who do not belong to the circle. But at some point, transition also happens there. For example, one of my regular students is a Christian from Buffalo, and she was referred to by my teacher, who is a so-called conservative. So those changes are slowly happening. For example, Samantha asked me, "Can you teach me this Ave Maria in Tamil?" So for me, I thought I'm very, I'm an open person and all that. If I was feeling challenged there, it was out of my comfort zone. But then we went along, we shared couple of YouTube videos, and we are learning that right now.
Nice.
So I think it's very important for artists and teachers to, be open to this sharing, where the other person is true and not chumma, not coming for time pass, or for branding. For
Right.
example, there is one student who called me yesterday saying she learned coloring from me 2 years back, and she said, now I'm auditioning for movies. Can we do a reel together? I'm like, okay, you come for class regularly for 2 months. Then if I feel ready for a reel, we can go about it. So I think even such an encounter of situation shouldn't be, and closed. You should be open.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think as a teacher, what Lakshmanji felt and what you feel right now is in a way connected to what the intention is of the student.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and like they say, when the student is ready,
Yes.
the teacher shows up
Yes.
in some form or the other.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to rewind a little bit. From working as a techie to make a decision to quit the job, take a plunge into art. Even though you were introduced to art in a different form
Yeah.
with Carnatic music, it's a big decision.
Yes.
Um, can you? What did you feel when you had to take this decision, and what kind of went through your mind at the time?
I think it was more. Mm, luckily, I had my husband working, so I didn't have kids then, so I didn't have to put food on the plate because it was somewhere taken care of. And I had, if I could say, the liberty or the luxury of making a choice of career shift. I used to pay for my expenses at Kalarigram and all of that, but I wouldn't contribute to the family. So that sort of helped me make the decision. Also, Mohan was really supportive. He said he used to come to Kalarigram to see how I was doing, how involved I was, and I really am thankful that he saw that I really resonated with the form. And sometimes he used to just say, "Okay, go, no problem, go." We had a lot of tough times in the initial years of our marriage to be together because I was too much focused into learning and practicing, and there was a lot of disconnect between the two of us. But then we caught up after 2 years. When I came back home, we caught up and we worked really hard to get to where we are today. And I mean, touch wood, we've been the best of friends. I couldn't have asked for a better support for me as a person and also as an artist.
Lovely. And what did you have to do from your end after you came back to get to that? I'm not sure if building trust is the right thing, but kind of developing that sort of intimacy, that sort of intimate connection with Mohan. What did you do differently?
So we took a road trip to Bombay from here. Uh, if you remember, we had Varda cyclone
Right.
then. And then I said, "Okay, Mohan, let's go get a divorce." And then both of us said, "Okay, we have a friend in Mumbai who I was comfortable with sharing my things." So I said, "Let's go there." So we didn't have any flights, no trains, everything was, and we had one dabba auto car. So we went in that car from Chennai. We traveled a lot. I remember it was Kartika Deepam, and a lot of places were having these, these fire things where they do this. Have you seen?
No.
I think it's made of these palm. Uh, they have a small cup kind of a thing, and they put coal, burning coal or something. So and they swirl it like that. All these youngsters, they
Okay.
make it's like a toy thing that they do. So I vividly remember all those night memories. And then, so basically, we took a road trip to Bombay. And then when we reached Arun's office, he was all ears. So we shared our parts, our his separately, mine separately, both together. And then he said, "What have you guys been doing for 2 years? Go and work on your marriage." And this is a very weak case. You can't get a divorce like this. So then, if there was some practical clarity that, okay, this is something to be worked on, it is not going to be given to you in a plate saying, this is perfect and you have to have it. You have to, adjust your face, your tongue, your teeth to, chew it and actually digest it and even enjoy it. So we worked really hard. Had to go through a lot of compromises. Main compromise was I couldn't go to Kalarigram as I used to go before. So I think Lakshmanji really prepared me for this phase where I there was Kaladigram wherever I went, because those practices and those values I think I carried with me wherever I went. So it gave me the strength to face even myself, because those parts in myself I had not faced before. Even when I was married, even when I was in the practice, only after I came back I encountered myself in a different level. And I think Yeah, major compromise was not going back to the practice immediately. So I started doing my self practice. I started taking classes, and it took its own course.
Wow.
So yeah,
And Lakshmanji was also supportive, and
Lakshmanji was always supportive in terms of the trust he had in me. I think more than anything else. And for Mohan, there was a huge compromise that he had got his employment pass in Singapore and he had to leave that and he had to come to work on the marriage. So both of us had a huge chunk of things that we had to compromise on. But I think both of us understood that we have to give and take some time. Anything cannot happen just like that, you know. If there are two people involved, we have to give each other time for growth, for some quiet time, for some rigorous time.
right.
Yeah.
Of course, relationship is hard work.
Oh my
Even if
god,
it is with
yes.
yourself
Yeah.
and with your partner,
Yeah.
it is hard work. Awesome. The production,
Mm.
you briefly talked about
Yeah. Veeran.
Veeran. So, a little bit more about that.
So Veeran, basically Teyyam as a ritual art form I encountered in Carnatic, and it was so fascinating. Every aspect of it, like when you don't understand the story of or the concept of what the performance is about, there are so many other things that connect to you, like the rhythm, the percussion is so amazing. Then next is the totem part, which is the Teyyam's way of storytelling. The songs or the recitations of those verses really actually take you through the story. If you have an advantage of knowing Malayalam, even then it's old Malayalam. So sometimes you won't understand. But when you're very
Do you
invested,
understand Malayalam?
I do. I understand Malayalam.
You always did, or you
No,
had
no.
to
After
learn?
I mean, it's not very different from Tamil. Some things here and there you can understand, but getting to the flow of it, I think you have to spend some time in a place where Malayalam is spoken and in
So
conversation.
the classes at
Yeah, the
Adi Shakti
instructions.
are in instructions are in
No,
Malayalam?
no,
Or?
no, no. Adishakti is fully in English,
Okay.
but in Kalarigram, we the commands in the class are in Malayalam.
Mm.
But even then, if somebody, a lot of people from other countries comes to you, if you have to communicate something like, push your knee out or keep your feet straight, not inside. So you have to use English a little bit and we manage that.
Okay.
So, yeah, so getting back to Veeran, Teyyam as an art form really fascinated, I think, all of us
Yeah.
in Kalarigram. And Kadivanur Veeran Teyyam came once in Tantrotsav, and it was very peculiar because they had this installation. Okay, all installations, all decorations, or all what to say, the ritualistic things that they do are with palm leaves and coconut leaves and all that. So belonging to this plastic world, to see so many things can be created visually with such nature, living in unison with nature was so fascinating. So a lot of aspects really fascinated me. So this particular Theyyam Kadivannur Veeran um, is having a folklore which is very famous in Kannur, North Malabar areas. So this guy, Mannappan, he belongs to a place called Mangad in North Malabar, and he is from a privileged family, and but he, because his father is very dominating, he wants to be a rebel. He doesn't want to listen to his father, and some one thing leads to another, and he leaves. He leaves home, and uh, so after he leaves home, even his friends who he hangs out with, they all hang out with him one last time and then they abandon him because the father is a very influential personality. So he goes and he embarks on his journey alone from Kannur to Kasargod, which is Mangalore side. So he walks, and the totem pata that they use for this is so fascinating. It talks about every carver, every temple, every marketplace that he goes to, and who all offer them. One Panyarama, he is offering him something, Kanyi Vellam or something. But then he has this vairagyam that I won't have anything unless I reach my maternal uncle's place. So he finally goes there. On his way, he meets he meets a very beautiful girl. He falls in love with her, and then he goes back. He goes to this Maman's house, and there he finds that he is inheriting a big, agricultural land, and he does farming, and really works hard to get that barren land to get productive. And then he grows sesame seeds, and then he harvests the seeds, he takes oil from that, and then finally he also gets married to that low caste girl. And so usually when you fall in love and you get married, and after some time you have doubts about each other, and so the girl also doubts him, saying, "Oh, you went to this woman last night, so I'm not going to serve you food." And then she does. And the folklore says that because she was angry and mad at him, she serves him some dirty food or something. Usually what happens, we
Right.
in a household thing. And then finally there is a war cry, and this man Manappan, he's a foreigner in this foreign land. From Mangad, he's come to Kasargod, and then he's marrying a foreign girl, and there is this animosity for him in the local circle. And then finally he goes to war with that gang, and then he wins. Then when he comes back, he finds that his ring finger and the wedding ring is missing. So he tells his friends, "Kelpidayo inde changarigale, my ring finger and my ring is not here." So then so all this we say in the totem pattern. So and finally, so he wants to go back to the warfield and find his thing, but his friends say, "No, no, no, you shouldn't go to the warfield." He said, "No, no, no, my beloved will, not accept me as I am. So I need to go find the ring." So he goes there, and then finally, he's killed, and he's chopped into a lot of pieces and thrown in all directions, like how his wife had cursed him before the war. And so finally, when Chammarati is at home, she finds that one of Manappan's favorite banana tree, there is something shining in that, and she finds that the ring and the ring finger are there on the tree, and she's shattered. She's feeling that something really bad has happened. So she goes to the warfield with Manappan's cousin, and they can't find the body. So they really, get all the parts from everywhere, and they want to burn it. And then finally, she also merges in the fire. And so Manappan's cousin Anukan is watching all this. So after the final rites, he's going to this river where Chemarathi first met Manappan. And he has his hallucination of Manappan and Chemarathi joyously taking a bath, and he's ecstatic. So then he's going back to Manappan's house to find that kadalivada, that banana tree, is just shaking and finally withering off. So he feels the spirit of Manappan and Chemarathi a lot. So that's how this legend of Manappan and Chemarathi is brought into a Theyyam, where a specific community called the Vannan community trains. It's a family lineage where they train the kids to become this Theyyam artist, where a lot of people in North Malabar, they have a lot of kavu. Kavu means a forest kind of space that is left for nature to be on its own. So they invite Theyyams to this kavu, and the Theyyam is performed every year, just to remind us that even in a legend, the totality of a human journey uh, could be reminded when a Theyyam comes. And usually, what happens is after the Theyyam is performed, all these Theyyam artists, the Kolakaranas, they are called, they are in a trance. So they give you a kind of, what do you call it? Vak.
Like an oracle's.
Yeah, like an
Yeah.
oracle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just have to go in front of them, and they'll just tell something, and that might help you in some time in your year or through the years.
Prophecies kind
Yeah,
of
like
thing.
a prophecy, because I think every ritual art form has this access to this subtle energy, that is so powerful. It can actually see the past, it can see the future, it can sense a lot of subtleties in and around us. So yeah, so this particular production, Kalari's production Veeran, is an inspiration or our way of telling the story of Manappan and Chemarathi. Uh, uh, so when I think 4 years back, when we started off, Lakshmanji just said in an interview, I was just saying, "Oh, I'm interested in making traditional ritual performances," and Lakshmanji just prodded me, saying, "There is no use of just saying; you have to do things practically." So that little trust or that little comment from him was a huge impetus for me to take this as a production very seriously. So three of us got together. One Akshay, Carolina, and I. The three of us were getting into choreography of the romance between them and the fight between them, and how we can show, Manappan's friends who are drinking up and having fun, and finally he's abandoned. So we imagined scenes together, and of course the musical composition, I was invested in that a lot. So getting inspiration from the totem patter, how to connect the story, the scenes through the totem patter, and of course having some alaps in between too.
Who composed it?
I composed it,
Very
but
nice.
with my drummers, we have an amazing team of percussionists. So we all did it together actually.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how you've taken a martial art form, turned it to a performance art.
Yeah.
What was the challenge? Because fundamentally, the spirit of martial art is, I don't know, for a layman like me, I would think it's self-defense, in the physical sense and also in the subtle sense, I would say. But from there, making it a form of expressing yourself, how did the transition happen? How did you approach it?
Okay, let me give you an example. Initially, Wi-Fi and all these technologies were used in warfield, but now we are using it in daily life. So I think the science that we used in warfield is, you know, everybody perceives or everybody receives the martial art differently. Although it's a self-defense form, I think as a theater enthusiast, I think Kalarippayattu makes you, it's a very neutral form actually. It doesn't have mudras, it doesn't have, a certain rhythm to it. So you can mold it as you want. So I think a common interest of telling story of Kadivanur Veeran, especially because Lakshmanji, it's Lakshmanji's life journey. I think he draws from the story, he relates, or he has this urgency of telling the story, and all of us sort of uh, contributed to, because he's done this production since 10-15 years back. He started with another different teams, but everybody Kalari practitioners. But the current form that it has taken is is very interesting to see from there how it's come here. So the major challenge to tell the story as a martial artist was, I think, the emoting part. You know,
Bhavam is not part of the emotion, is
no,
not part of
martial art. Yeah. So I think the major part of emoting is done through the music. Music helps a lot to, and we feed off each other. For example, in the scene where Akshay is, Manappan is drinking up with his friends, we just, ta na na ne ta na 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 ta na. So it's like a, tenan the coconut field, and he's drinking up. So it's all imagining, okay? And then these guys are having actually fun. Hey, can you see that girl? Oh, can you see him? Ha ha ha, So even when I'm singing to them, I am singing as them, So major part of expressing is through the music. So that's sort of a language that we adopted.
and for example, when you narrated the story, I could naturally visualize a Bharatanatyam or some other art form expressing that, either representing a banana tree or a house or a river through. I've seen a few performances, so I could visualize. So in this case, music was one. Did you also use props? I haven't seen the production, so I'm very curious too.
We've not used props. So we voluntarily chose not to have any narration. The
Voiceover, no voiceover.
No voiceover is only the music, the totem party, which is in Malayalam. So imagine you're watching a no performance or a Chinese opera or an Assamese form. You wouldn't know what they're performing, but the I think the authentic expression that comes out non-verbally is much more powerful than how much ever words you put, how much ever props you use. Okay, and then so without any urgency to communicate verbally, I think the whole process was to tell or emote through our bodies and music, of course.
I was going to ask that. Very interesting. You kind of touched upon that. I was going to ask if, okay, as an artist, do you always want to convey something to your audience, or do you want to express yourself? And because as an audience, as a viewer, I consume art probably very differently from how the next person would consume it.
Yes.
So you can't really have a goal of, okay, this is the message I want to convey to the audience. Do you approach it that way, or how do you do that?
So initially, the way we are trained usually is to tell a message or tell something, but it's not the case. Audience is very, very intelligent. They can make meaning out of whatever they see. I think we have to trust the audience to their ability of making meaning in themselves. As an artist, I can authentically present something. For example, a manodharmam in swaram, for example, nobody will know jack shit about sarigapadas or something, but the way the expression coming from me makes you feel is going to stay with you,
Right.
rather than saying, oh, this is the ragam and these are the notes I'm using, this is the feeling that I'm trying to invoke. Instead of saying or giving a message out, I think that ultimately
Make them feel it.
yes, the trust is to the intention is to trust them and make their own meaning out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Great. So let's shift gears a little bit. Okay. What have you not done yet?
I've not done a lot of things. In Kalari, you mean?
It's just a very open question. So
Okay.
whatever comes to your mind, it was
Oh.
deliberately put it that way. What do you think of the first thing that you thought of when I asked that question?
I want to master the current weapon that I've taken, I've received from my guru. It's called Ottakol. It's a curved wooden stick, and it's a very intelligent weapon. The sequences with that weapon gives your body a certain kind of intelligence that you cannot say. I think any physical practices or uh, practices that are so closely connected to spiritual way of going about it, I think it's instilling a lot of intelligence in your body rather than your brain. So uh, your I don't know, the intelligence of your presence is more than how you function with your brain. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
I'll process it.
Yeah. So I want to master that weapon. I want to be the best student of that. That would be my goal for this year. Other than that, lot of things. Yeah, I want to. I don't know. I want to. I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's shift gears again. We'll come
Yeah.
back to this later,
Yes,
maybe
yes.
whenever it emerges for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we kind of talked in depth about Kalarippayattu as an art, as a performing art also. Do you see this also? Let me put it this way: how do you see this empowering for little girls, given the current circumstances in India? It's still conservative. It's still not very safe place for women. Uh, Women are encouraged to learn self-defense, be able to defend themselves through multiple martial art forms. From that perspective, not just at a gross physical level to defend themselves, but also in general, how does it empower girls or women? And what is your experience with that?
I think, like I said before, your presence, the intelligence of your presence becomes more than the thinking, than the brain. So, as much as it is a self defense practice, it is more about how connected you are to yourself. Okay. And in terms of what kind of people you want to hang out. Because sometimes we just go with the flow, right? But when you're really connected to yourself, you know what the risks are, and you know your mind, your body, and your subtle body is very very intelligent. It knows what to be, you know, prepared for. So I think the practice makes you a little more aware of your moves, of the possibilities of what can happen. Not about predicting, I'm just saying.
Become more smarter in being able to get the
Yes,
signals, the subtle
yes,
signals, so to
yes,
speak.
yes. For example, I met somebody at a festival. We both of us, we jammed together. I was singing, he was playing an instrument, and we were a hit. We were having a blast performing together. But then the moment the performance was over, like 10-15 minutes after that, he came behind me and he wanted to get my number. I immediately sensed that something is going on. Okay. But then I was also hoping that he wouldn't, be the kind of person I was hoping him to be. So I shared my number with him. But then half an hour, 30 minutes later, he was coming and saying, "Oh, you were so nice, this. Then there was a clear no. I blocked his number. So just, a little example of how aware you can be about things. Okay.
Right.
Being open, but also being
Vigilant.
mindful of
Yeah.
what is happening, what might happen. Is this really necessary for me?
Got it. Got it. Very interesting. What's next for you?
What's next for me? So I've been learning this set of kritis called Navavarna kritis by Muthuswami Dikshitar. So I want to understand this kritis more. What what things have been encoded, because it is highly encoded, highly encoded. So I want to really get to know the subtle aspects of the kritis, and maybe have an installation performance out of it. That's where I think I'm heading towards, but you never know. If, fingers crossed, if it will happen or no. I think by performing or by practicing is how I am able to understand more, rather than reading. I think reading is one way of learning, but more than reading, I think by practicing, I'm able to learn more. I'm able to absorb. I'm able to understand more. So Kamalamba Navavarna Kritis is my next.
Can't pretend to understand what you said, but I can feel what you said about practicing versus intellectualizing
Yes.
something.
Yes.
I think it's a fascinating difference. Right?
Yes.
You can intellectualize, you can do all those mental gymnastics all you want,
Yes.
but then when you practice and feel it, it's
Yes.
different.
Yes.
I get that. I get that part. So music and Kalari. we've talked a lot, and I can see how you feel so close to both these art forms. How does this? How do these two art forms, your own practice, your own reflections, how do they influence or how do they inform you in the other roles that you play? Shubha as a mother, Shubha as a friend, Shubha as a partner. We talked a little bit about as a partner, so
Yes, yes.
yeah, but the other roles also.
I think through my journey in Kalarippayattu, I'm becoming much more compassionate towards, like I told you, I think as you practice daily, as you see your teacher practicing, you mirror the movements, and you can empathize. You carry the same quality in your daily life, and you kind of empathize with people who you hang out. It's very difficult to have the same amount of empathy every time, every moment. You should come see me at home. I'm not very composed. I feel, why am I a mother? I cannot be this mother. But then again, 5 minutes later, I'm cuddling with my little ones, and I think all of us have the same kind of challenges. We also want to internally focus and grow, but also be a provider and be compassionate to the people who are living with us. So of course, it's very challenging. Um, but my practice, I think, helps me to uh, coherent um integrity. Yeah, integrity. I think it makes me integral to any interaction I have in my daily life, because otherwise there is no meaning in me practicing. I'll feel that then that day my practice will be disturbed.
Maybe congruent is the word you were
Yes,
looking for.
yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think my practice makes me or molds me to become
Stay
more.
aligned.
Yes, stay aligned.
So we talked about Shivaratri festival that you briefly mentioned about. Can you talk a little bit more about it? And does it happen every year?
Every year it happens in Kalarigram. So my Guru Lakshmanji's Paramaguru is Yogish Anandanatha, who was the chief priest of Rameshwaram temple, and he was invited to Auroville by mother to consecrate the Matre Mandir. And there was some disagreement with some people in Auroville, and he had to go out. And somehow, Lakshmanji, when he was invited by Adishakti Pinapani to take Kalari classes, he found this link of Yogishanand ji coming, but not not leaving the space in a good note. So he established Yogishananda Peedam, which organizes Tantrotsav every year. So, as part of Tantrotsav, this year we had exclusive ritualistic practices. Like we had Kalamedittu Paatu, where uh, teams from Kerala where they came and they drew specific columns. Column is um, patterns on the floor, and with a big ritualistic approach, they have this one guy who's called the Komaram, who very meticulously destroys it. So they take the whole day to prepare that one kalam, and in just about 2 hours, with drums and with vocal ritualistic songs, that guy destroys the beautiful creation, which is so symbolic of our lives, because we all take so much pain to create such beautiful things, and but we are so attached to it that sometimes we just can't let go of certain things, and it's just a part of life that you have to kind of cut off things when the time comes. So that lot of takeaways from the rituals that we don't know about. So we had Kalamarthu Paatu, we had Mudiyettu, where this man who he's dressed like Kali, and he danced all night with the drums and with the people. It's like the God is coming and dancing with us. and people are going crazy. Rave parties are nothing in front of them. They are going crazy all night, full night, and even me. I went full crazy. At one point, I didn't feel my body at all. I was just one small thread was vibrating, and um, the energy is building
This
up so
happens in
much.
Oroville?
Yes,
Okay.
in Kalarigram,
Okay.
which is just outside Oroville.
Mm.
So I think if a lot of people are exposed to these practices or such kind of celebrations, I think we become more connected to each other and we become more empathetic. And hoping that uh, we, you know, accept, there is a lot of acceptance and not like, you know, uh, massaging your ego. Usually we do that, we massage our ego, but practices like these actually cut your egos and they sort of give you an acceptance to things.
Right.
So yeah, that's Tantrotsav. That's Tantrotsav.
How many people participate in it?
So
Like
the
other than the
festival,
performers?
yeah, first the festival is for 10 days. So artists usually come, teachers come, and participants come, and every day there is some performance. And on the last day, so all the 10 days we have some performance or the other. Some 300, 200 people come
Every day.
every day. But on the last day, thousands of people come. Thousands. Until I think 4 a.m. in the morning, we have people coming in to see what's happening, just getting along with it. And
Wow. Yeah. Such a festivity.
oh, yes.
And residential. You can stay and
Yeah.
be there for the 10
Yeah.
days. And if I had to come watch it.
Yeah, you can, but you have to, that's a season, peak season time. So you have
When
to
does it
be
happen?
Shivratri.
Every year Shivaratri only.
Yeah.
It culminates in Shivaratri.
Yeah. It
The last
comes.
day
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
very interesting. Wow. Super. Anything else? What haven't we talked about, Shubha? It's been a fascinating conversation we've had
Yeah,
so
yeah.
far. Gone deep into several
Yeah.
areas. And what haven't we talked about?
I don't know. I think,
What do you do for fun?
okay, good. What do I do for fun? Mm,
Well, I'm sure your Kalari and
yeah, that's also fun,
it's
but
by itself is fun, but
yeah.
you know what I mean.
Oh, I love to watch movies. So Mohan and I, time and again, we go for night shows. We just put the kids down, please sleep, and then we go for movies. Even if we are half an hour late or 1.5 hours late, we go for movies. We
So
have
you're
a good,
that couple
yeah,
who walks in.
yeah. But now it's reduced a little bit. But that's our bonding time.
Yeah.
We usually watch movies. I would love for him to come and watch live performances, but somehow it doesn't happen very much. But movies is our go-to.
What kind of movies?
Mm, depends. So I liked Kadal. What is that? Mamuti Jyotika
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Kadal the Core.
Right.
I liked it, but he was like, it's too arty for me. Yeah, I understand the concept, all that, but it's too silent for me.
Right.
I would like to go for master. So I think we balance out each other's.
Yeah. First half of this and second half.
Maybe.
Nice. Nice. What else?
What else? We like to travel.
Okay.
So I like to travel. So, last year I had collaborated with one artist. We had did one installation. He had done an installation for Singapore Art Museum, and so I had sung a few things for him. He had made a very interesting installation of 64 yoginis. There is a temple in Orissa where there are 64 yoginis. The temple is circular, so he was inspired by that, and he was having this narrative of Alan Turing. There's a mathematician called Alan Turing.
Right.
So he imagined that Alan Turing was born in India. I think he was, but he moved to London or something. But he imagined that in his childhood and formative years, he was in India and he was inspired by all these kolam practices and Bharatanatyam practices, Odissi and Rabindranath Tagore and everything. And through the installation, I think he also had these interesting pictures from Alan Turing's diary. So I was responsible for taking the audience through the uh,
All
through
the
the
way
journey.
through solving the enigma, or
Oh no, 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 not like that. But just the journey of how what all could have impacted him. So I sang one.
more the early
Yeah,
parts of his
yeah,
journey.
yeah. So I sang one bowl song, and then I sang one. I think it was a. mm, what do they sing in Margari season? Some
Tirupavai.
Tirupavai, yes.
Yeah.
So I sang one Tirupavai for him. So I went to Singapore. They didn't sponsor me, but then I took my family, like my
Nice.
mom, my dad, and my sister. We all went, and then we had like a 1 week.
This was recently.
This was last year.
Okay.
So we went and we made a trip out of it.
Nice.
And yeah, I like traveling, but I'd love to travel more.
Do you read?
I do. I do. I recently read this book called Midnight Library. I forgot the name of the author, but it's a very nice fantasy book.
Fiction.
And I started reading Shantaram. I don't know, for the nth time. I love that book. I recently borrowed a book from you, so hoping to finish that soon. Then
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning. Yes. Yeah. So I enjoy reading.
Nice. Both fiction and non-fiction.
Both fiction and non-fiction. Usually on the fiction side.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's interesting. The last conversation I had with Deepika, she was talking about how much we underestimate the takeaways from fiction.
Oh yes.
So I resonated with that a lot, and watching series, watching cinema, reading fiction, some of the characters, some of the situations, and how you can, so much takeaways you can have. It's not like you're getting influenced by it or kind of mimicking it, but
Yeah.
obviously there are inspirations that
Yes.
that happen that can be very helpful also. So just not non-fiction that can be helpful,
Yeah.
right?
For example, this Midnight Library, Deepika gave me as a New Year gift. So this girl is at a very low point in her life. She's wanting to commit suicide, and then she does. But she's in the middle of life and death, and she's imagining her favorite place, which is the library, which which was a safe place for her, and her librarian is there with her. And she imagines a lot of alternate lives that she could have lived, because she's committing suicide because she's fully in regret of so many things. And this librarian is helping her to live all those alternate lives she wanted to live, which a fiction book won't give you. You know, lot of times we people will think you should think 1,000 times before you take a decision. But we usually, nobody teaches you how to think, or is there a possibility to think. you know but books like these really, I think, give you an opening.
Perspective.
Yeah.
So um, we talked a lot about the influence um, your teachers, your gurus have had on your practice, on on your attachment and commitment to the art. What kind of influence have they had on you as a person, if any?
I think my guru's wife, they live in Kalari, and there were a lot of challenging points I had in terms of making personal choices. And even in the practice, after two deliveries, I almost like gave up on not getting back to the practice as I used to before. Earlier, I used to be so fearless, just going in the practice. And I used to judge people who are, having some fears. What these guys are doing, and 4 years down the line, I am on the other side, and the same Shubha is judging this Shubha, saying, what are you doing in this Kalari? Just get out. So, but then I think the kind of trust that my guru has in me has shaped or strengthened me to face the challenges that I pose for myself, actually, not anybody else. So I used to feel, there was a point where I used to feel I'm not um, fit for a family. I want to quit family because I want to dedicate myself to Kalarippayattu. But it so happened that my guru's family really inspired me to get through that tough phase, to and it was the best decision of my life, of staying in the family and doing it, because I'm not doing anything different, actually speaking. My profession is different, but what I'm doing, the kind of struggles I'm facing, the kind of struggles I'm facing to excel in my art form, the kind of struggle I'm facing to be in the family as strongly as possible. I think any person like me, or any, even you for that matter, for any, even Archana, whoever, we face the same kind of problem. And I got this insight only from my guru's family. Also, this thing about not being able to perform as much as I was able to do before delivery. Lakshmanji's brother Shatruji says that when Sami Gurukul, their father, had started Hindustan Kalari Sangam, they had no money. So we function in this manner, like, we don't have money, how can we do? But then Lakshmanji and Shatruji, Sami Gurukul, all of them have just been doing, and the act of doing has brought in funds to keep things going. And my Shatruji says, um, Sami Gurukul used to say, I'll say this in Malayalam, மரிச்சு போறதுக்கு we are actually working. We are working to die. We are usually so fearful about doing things, but then this quality of Sami Gurukul was, he used to work to die. And when inside the Kalari pit, if you're doing a sequence and you feel like you're going to, collapse, it's okay. You go, you go. And
Keep
if
going.
you keep going, if you fall down, it's okay. It's the Kalari, it will take care of you. I think that kind of trust, if you can carry outside in your life, in your community, awesome.
Very profound.
Very, very profound. And when I talked about compassion, Sami Gurukul, he was a Vaidyar. He was a Ayurvedic doctor. So usually with Kalarippayattu, we usually also perform bandages and massages and all of that. So he was a great healer. He was a great healer. So he was so compassionate that there was a Vaidyar right next door, and this Sami Gurukul wouldn't practice in his near his home because there was this other Vaidyar. So he used to travel somewhere to house to give massages and bandages and everything. And after this Vaidyar passed on, then he started Hindustan Kali Sangam clinic. And this, I think it's not just about the gurus that you have right now. This quality of guru really comes down to, and I think that's how the tradition is alive.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
Yeah.
In a way, guru is gurutvam, right? It's the
Yes.
idea of guru,
Yes.
and idea of where you want to draw
Yes.
inspiration and
yes.
learning from.
Yeah.
And when you also have that in a person, in the form of a
Yes.
person,
Yes.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
But when you don't, from the books or from what you hear,
Yeah.
it's amazing to hear these stories about Sami Gurukul, having that kind of compassion to kind of
Yeah.
wait until
Yeah.
his competition
Yeah. Yeah.
moves on.
How many people have that? Yeah. Now we'll see how much bigger board you can keep in front of your house to attract people.
True. See, it's also in a way very smart. See, you want people to come.
Yes.
The more, the merrier,
Yes. Yes.
and you can coexist. You can.
Yeah.
The beautiful lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way he used to say, um, we hold a posture for maybe 1 or 2 minutes. But Shatruji, when he was training, Sami Gurukul used to treat inside the Kalari. There was a mat, and he used to ask patients to lie down and give massages and everything. And these guys used to train there. Amarna means you have to stay in that position for God knows 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and I can't imagine myself doing that. So all those sacrifices that those guys have done is the reason why we are able to get something.
Speaking of holding postures, does it help you slow down?
Oh
Does it
yes,
help you ground
calm
yourself?
down to become more strong, because it's all how you hold yourself together with the breath, with all your muscles and all your bones and everything. You're holding that posture. It's very difficult. More than 2 minutes, it's very
2 minutes, I
difficult.
can't imagine 20 seconds.
It's very difficult. So when you see these guys on stage, and even if they feel after the performance it was not that great, there people would be whistling for them. And it's all that gurutvam you said. It's all that gurutvam
The
that,
grace.
yes, it's all that's coming in. I think gurutvam, as you uh, rightly said, is the gravity, towards your guru, the practice, or the whole lineage.
Yeah.
As we actually discussed about gurutvam this Tantrotsav event.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I can relate a lot with this idea of guru, right?
Yeah.
Because when you feel you're ready to learn genuinely
Yes.
deep inside, and you're ready to be a student,
Mm.
gurus show up everywhere.
Yes.
Just there's
Yes.
so much to absorb and
Yes.
take in.
Yes.
It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Shubha, thank you so much. It's been a fantastic conversation. Really, art, reflections, spirituality, and of course, fun and cinema and books. Very good conversation. I think I'll just ask two more questions, and then we will bring this to a landing. You do a lot of these different things, and you've spoken a lot. I think the first thing that comes to your mind when I ask anything is your Kalari practice. I think I get a sense that you identify yourself closest with that.
Yes.
And then probably your music,
Yes.
and of course your roles as a mother and all of that, right? The mundane, the sacred and the mundane. Is there a constant that kind of is pervasive across these, or are you different in these different realms as a person?
I think in the core, I'm same, but different aspects surface when I'm playing different roles.
So you show up differently.
Yeah.
For different.
Yeah. In the core, I want to be genuine. I want to be, for me, I want to be genuine, actually, in whatever I do. And when I'm in my Kalari practice, I want to be genuine. I want to be as genuine as possible. When I'm playing a role of a mother, I want to be as genuine as I can be. In fact, I feel irritated when I'm not being able to be genuine sometimes. Sometimes it's easy, for when you look up to some people who are great parents in your eyes, you're not able to be like them sometimes, and you're frustrated, and that comes out as an irritation towards your children. Other power, what will they do? They will just receive that.
But also, see, there are situations and contexts and environments
Yes.
that support you, prop you up to be genuine.
Yes.
In certain situations, it is a challenge.
Yeah.
The reality of it is
Yeah.
you have to work too hard to
Yeah.
break barriers to show up authentic.
Yes. Yes.
Because of the judgments, because of the expectations and all of that.
Yeah.
For example, when you're performing, there is no judgment. You're just being there.
Yes.
May not be the same everywhere, but probably that's why you can relate to
Yes.
being genuine, being authentic, because there is almost no barrier, right?
Yeah.
In when you're performing, when you're
Yeah.
in Kalarigram,
Yeah.
versus in other places. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can relate to that. Yeah. Um, Anything else? How would you like to conclude?
I think we go through transitions every time in our lives. Some transitions are small, some transitions are really big. For me, my big transition was stepping inside the Kalari. And it took me in another possibility of living life than what I was familiar with, my family was familiar with. But I think just being with yourself, being with the calling that is there inside you, holding that strongly, and also taking support from others is okay. And acceptance has taught me a lot through the process. So yeah, I think everything is actually nature is throwing at us, and we can respond to the best genuine way we can.
Right.
So
Thank you so much, Shubha. Lovely
thank you.
time, great conversation. I had a ball of a time.
Thank you.
Uh,
Same here. Your questions really helped me reflect on so many things that we usually just take things for granted, and we want to move on. We don't have time.
yeah.
Yeah, to speak about it. But
Thank you so much.
thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.